Here to talk to us more about the country's growth prospects, we have Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno. He's joining us live via Zoom. Welcome to The Big Story, Secretary Diokno.
Good evening, Robbie, and good evening, Gretchen.
So, sir, I'll start with what Mr. Mapa's concern, and everybody's concerned, of course. How far or how much is inflation already factored into your confidence of hitting our targets, especially given that, as you keep saying, a lot of these inflationary factors are external to us?
Yeah, I think inflation hit 6.4% last month, but I bet that this has already peaked. Okay, as you know, oil prices has started to go down, so we expect inflation to start to decelerate towards the end of the year, and in fact, we're confident that inflation will be within our target range of 2 to 4% next year. So the impact of that on whether we'll hit our growth target of 6.5 to 7.5%, we're very confident that we will hit at least the lower bound of the target. As R.C. Balisacan said, all we need to do is grow by 5.2% for the second half, and we'll hit the 6.5% growth rate.
With slower growth, what are your plans on further reducing the debt to GDP ratio?
Well, our plan to reduce the debt to GDP ratio is not going to happen within 1 year, right? And in fact, it will taper off to about maybe slightly less than 60% by 2028. The fiscal deficit, rather the budget deficit to GDP ratio, we expect that to hit 3% by the end of the Marcos Jr. administration.
Okay, and then the third head, as the economists keep saying, the third head of the three-headed monster, interest rates. What are we seeing? Very early on in this administration, Mr. Medalla was quite confident in saying that, look, we'll try to offset by being more predictable. No more than 50 basis points, only an X number this year, maybe a third round by next year. We've breached all of those initial expectations, both in terms of levels. We've hit 75 basis points. We've gone more than 2 rounds already. What are you expecting, and what can people expect when it comes to interest rates?
Well, as you know, for the longest time, we kept interest rate at 2%. Then we started adjusting the rate in May, 25 basis points. In June, 25 basis points. And the surprise one, the latest, is 75 basis points. So we're now at 3.25, right? And so we will have another policy meeting this coming August, this month. And so Professor Medalla, I think, hinted it's either a low 25 basis point to a high of 50 basis point. That's where we are. So we'll probably end the year by around 3.75% interest rate. That is very much within the assumption, and we will continue to grow at our target of 6.5 to 8% for the last 5 years of the Marcos Jr. administration. And so, because we've seen much higher interest rates when we were growing at around 6 to 6.5%.
Okay, and with everything, what do you see happening to our credit rating, or does that even matter that much?
Well, I think we're very confident that there will be no downgrade. In fact, it is notable that despite the two-year pandemic, the rating agencies have affirmed our investment grade rating and downgraded maybe 1/3 of the emerging economies and even some developed countries. So we're confident that we have presented a medium-term fiscal plan, as stated by the president, that is credible and doable. So we don't expect any downgrade within the next few years. In fact, we are working for an upgrade. So we will vigorously pursue our economic briefing here and abroad to what we call the road to A. In fact, we are still aspiring to have an A rating down the road.
All right, Secretary, with the recent rate hike of 75 basis points, people have been saying that it actually worked in stifling inflation. What can we expect in terms of the peso-dollar exchange rate? Because I have a lot of friends looking at this. Until the end of the year, hanggang ano po yung pinakamataas, pinakamababa? How high, how low can this go?
Don't bet that the peso will go to 56, okay? Because it won't be there, I think. I'm very confident that it will be back to maybe around the 55 or even lower by the end of the year. As you know, there's usually an influx of overseas Filipino remittances towards the fourth quarter. So things will continue. It has the peso has actually stabilized, and in fact, it's strengthening. And so I bet it will be around 55 by the end of the year.